I've lived in our little village my entire life, and honestly, almost everyone else here has done the same. We rarely see newcomers around these parts. Our parents built their lives on these very plots of land, and today, they still reside in the houses right next door. Now, our own children are growing up in the exact same yards. You could say we've known each other since the day we were born. Because of that tight bond, our joys are shared together, and so are our heartaches. Of course, just like in any real family, we have our share of petty arguments, gossip, and occasional jealousy. It's just part of village life. So, when my son's childhood friend got married, my presence at the wedding was practically guaranteed. Like many of our neighbors, I arrived early to help set the long tables under the canopy. I spent the entire afternoon running back and forth, serving steaming platters of food and refilling drinks for the guests. By the time evening rolled around, the hosts insisted that those of us who helped should finally sit down and celebrate properly. Despite it being October, the celebration was held outdoors under a large wooden shelter. Luckily for everyone, autumn had gifted us an unusually warm, gentle evening. As the party hit its peak and deep darkness settled over the yard, I felt utterly exhausted from all the running around. After tossing back a shot of vodka to toast the newlyweds' health, I decided I needed a quiet break away from the noisy, drunken crowd. I slipped away toward the edge of their orchard, pulled out a cigarette, and lit it in the shadows, enjoying the cool night air. Just a minute later, I heard footsteps crunching on the dry leaves. A young guy, probably around 20, walked up to me. He was one of the groom's university friends, quite tipsy, slight of build, short in stature, and wearing a smart suit with a small flower pinned to his lapel. "Do you smoke?" he asked, his voice filled with genuine surprise as he looked at me. "I do." "Is there a problem?" I replied calmly, flicking the glowing ash from the tip of my cigarette. "It's just strange," he said, taking a step closer and sitting down on the bench beside me. "Such a beautiful woman, and she smokes." "Well, calling me beautiful is a bit of a stretch, kid." I chuckled softly, taking another drag. "No, really, you are beautiful," he insisted, muttering the words with total conviction. "I noticed you the moment I got here. You caught my eye right away, your figure, your face, your hair." I shook my head with a smile, threw the cigarette butt onto the ground, and crushed it under my shoe. "Look, if you drink another 200 grams of vodka, you'll probably start confessing your love to me," I teased. "Why are you being so formal with me?" he asked, sliding closer and throwing his arm casually around my shoulders. "Alcohol has nothing to do with this. I don't need drinks to tell you how I feel. And to prove it, I'm just going to go ahead and kiss you." "Go ahead and try. Let's see if you can pull it off," I scoffed, barely holding back a laugh. I was convinced the poor kid was so drunk he couldn't even see who was sitting in front of him and was just trying his luck. Before I could say another word, he pulled me toward him. He pressed his lips to mine so unexpectedly and with such intense, fiery passion that it literally knocked the breath right out of my lungs. "Well, look at that," I gasped when he finally let me go, trying to catch my breath. "You're actually pretty good at this." "I'm completely serious about you," he replied earnestly, leaning back in to kiss me a second time. He's actually trying to pick me up, I thought, shaking my head in utter disbelief. "What's wrong?" he asked, noticing my reaction. "Nothing," I said, firmly taking his hand off my shoulder. "I think I should probably head back to the party." I stood up and walked away into the darkness, leaving him sitting alone on the bench. Unbelievable, I thought to myself as I walked back toward the light. Look at what alcohol does to young men. They completely lose their boundaries. He probably couldn't even see me in the dark. Once he gets under the lights, he won't even realize who he was sitting with. I rejoined my table, had another drink, and jumped into a lively conversation with our neighbors. Within minutes, I had completely forgotten about the strange encounter in the orchard. After all, crazy things happen when people have had a bit too much to drink. About half an hour later, I felt someone sit down in the empty seat right next to me. I turned around and there he was again. Under the bright outdoor lights, he looked even younger than he had in the dark. So, he knew what he was doing after all, I thought, realization washing over me. It wasn't just the darkness. Shall we drink to the newlyweds? He asked, holding up a fresh shot glass of vodka, his eyes locked onto mine with a sly smile. Who on earth is this? The groom's mother whispered with a wide grin, nudging me hard in the ribs. I just shrugged my shoulders, pretending to be clueless. Don't miss your chance, Galya, she teased with a playful wink. When a temporary lull settled over the table, I leaned over to her and mentioned I was going out to smoke again, asking her to call me if anything important happened. Leaving the noisy table behind, I walked toward the outdoor bathroom, but seeing a long line of guests waiting outside, I turned around and headed back toward the dark orchard instead. Nobody would notice me there. As I walked into the shadows, I spotted him wandering aimlessly around the yard. He's looking for me, I realized. What a persistent little guy. Gets drunk and completely loses control of himself. Just as I was stepping out from behind the trees, he caught sight of me and immediately hurried over. Shall we go for a walk? He asked softly, taking my hand in his. He really doesn't know when to give up, I thought. Yet, to my own surprise, I didn't pull my hand away. I let him lead me. What drove me to do it? I honestly don't know. Maybe it was just basic human instinct, or maybe something inside my head just suddenly snapped. We walked deep into the garden until we reached the low wooden fence that separates our neighboring properties. I stopped and looked down at him. He was a full head shorter than me. He looked so small, so young, and so vulnerable under the moonlight. Yet, something deep inside me began to stir. Maybe it was just nature taking over, or maybe I simply felt a wave of strange tenderness for him. After we finally caught our breath, he looked up at me and smiled warmly. We never actually got around to introducing ourselves properly. I'm Dima. It's really nice to meet you. And I'm Galya, I replied softly, before adding with a faint smile. Or rather, Galina Sergeyevna. Before we parted ways that night, he looked into my eyes and said he desperately wanted to meet up with me somewhere quiet, away from the village. I looked back at him and admitted that I wanted that too. We exchanged phone numbers right there by the fence. Now, our lives have taken an unexpected turn. We call each other all the time, nearly every single evening, and we even talk for hours over Skype when the house is quiet. And right now, I'm just waiting for the day my son leaves for his university classes, so I can finally invite Dima over to my place.